This is WFYI News Now. It's June 3rd, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, how Indiana made big waves in clean energy during the first quarter of the year. Why the U.S. Department of Homeland Security believes Monroe County obstructs the enforcement of federal immigration law. And Indiana officials say the state is declaring freedom from the bird flu.
This isn't an all clear because the virus is still floating around. We know it's still in the wild bird population. We know it's still being identified on poultry farms in other states.
Those stories coming up. But first, a $27 million spring spending package before the City County Council will receive a final vote next week. Plans to use the supplemental county income tax include funding for infrastructure, urban forests, and a reading program. Council Republicans, including Minority Leader Michael Paul Hart, support those moves, but say more needs to go to road repairs, the number one complaint they hear from constituents.
And ultimately, it was really clear that, these things aren't getting taken care of. I've had many people reach out to me about these roads, and nothing was being done.
Republicans will also propose retaining funds for violence prevention grants until an analysis of spending is presented. They will propose amendments to remove funding for housing repairs and cultural districts. The spending allocates $13 million to DPW for roadways and stormwater projects. Nearly half of all solar installed in Indiana came online last year, mostly from the state's utilities. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Rebecca Thiel reports the state also made big waves in clean energy during the first quarter of this year.
Indiana added the third most solar of any state in the first quarter of this year. It also quadrupled its battery storage, mostly due to a new 200-megawatt facility at AES Indiana's Petersburg Generating Station in Pike County. These standalone batteries allow utilities to buy energy off the grid when it's cheap and store it for their customers or sell it back to the grid. Because that could be any combination of wind, solar, gas, and coal, it's hard to say if the energy stored is particularly green. Mallory Duncan is the communications director for the utility.
It changes every day, every hour, every month where that energy comes from.
But the American Clean Power Association says even if they're not paired with solar or wind, the flexibility of these batteries can help make all the energy sources on the grid run more efficiently. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebecca Thiel.
ACP says battery storage is also becoming cheaper and more efficient, which makes it more attractive to utilities. Monroe County is the only Indiana jurisdiction named on the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's list of cities, counties, and states that the agency believes obstruct enforcement of federal immigration law. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Donnie Burgess reports.
The list is a product of an executive order issued by President Trump. The order requires a published list of local jurisdictions that the administration believes, quote, protect dangerous criminal aliens from facing consequences and put law enforcement in peril. The Monroe County Sheriff's Office is currently in a legal battle with State Attorney General Todd Rokita over local police cooperation with federal immigration law enforcement. ICE presence in Bloomington prompted the temporary closure of a local nonprofit that helps immigrants resettle. ICE eventually arrested at least 4 immigrants in Bloomington. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Donnie Burgess.
And for our final story today, Indiana officials say the state is declaring freedom from the highly pathogenic avian influenza, or bird flu. WFYI's Ben Thorpe reports a bird flu-free status means a state has eliminated disease on all affected farms, and no new infections are detected after waiting for 28 days.
The declaration should help reduce some export restrictions and international trade barriers for Indiana's poultry and poultry products. Indiana is a national leader in duck production, eggs, and turkeys. Denise Derer-Spears is with the Indiana State Board of Animal Health.
This isn't an all clear because the virus is still floating around. We know it's still in the wild bird population. We know it's still being identified on poultry farms in other states.
The virus has been found in dairy herds in 18 states, but not in Indiana, according to state officials. 70 people across the U.S. have contracted bird flu after exposure to the virus, mainly through poultry farms and dairy herds. One person died, but the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the risk to humans remains low. I'm Ben Thorpe.
That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Dodlin and Zach Bundy, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.